Hey everyone, and welcome to the Deep Dive. We're tackling something today that I know a lot of you have been requesting, and that's IELTS Academic Writing Task 1. It can be a real head-scratcher, so we're going to dive deep into Rachel Mitchell's IELTS Academic Writing Task 1, the ultimate guide to see what we can learn.
It's a fantastic resource, really breaks down the task into clear steps and strategies.
So let's jump right in. The guide kicks off by talking about task achievement, which sounds pretty straightforward.
Yeah, it does sound simple enough.
But I have a feeling it's more nuanced than just, answering the question.
Absolutely. It's not just about putting words on the page. It's about making sure those words are actually hitting the mark.
So what does that look like in practice? What are the examiners looking for when they assess task achievement?
Well, they want to see that you really understand the task, that you've identified the key features of the visual information.
Okay, so you need to pick out those main points and trends.
Exactly. And you need to present them in a clear and concise way, all while staying within the word limit and time constraints.
Time pressure. Ugh, that's always my biggest enemy.
I hear you. Time management is crucial here. The guide suggests spending a few minutes analyzing the visual and planning your response.
Okay, so don't just jump into writing right away.
Right. Take a moment to strategize. Figure out what you want to say and how you're going to say it.
That makes sense. Now, the guide also talks about sentence structures, which is something I personally struggle with.
Yeah, finding that balance between simplicity and sophistication can be tough.
Can you give us an example of how to make a simple sentence more, well, sophisticated without overdoing it?
Sure. Let's say your basic sentence is, the sales increased. To add more detail, you could say, the sales figures demonstrated a steady increase over the given period.
Ah, I see. You've added more specific information and made it sound more academic.
Exactly. And that's where the guide provides a toolbox of different sentence structures to help you express your ideas effectively.
So it's like having a cheat sheet for sounding more sophisticated. I like it. Now, besides task achievement and sentence structures, the guide also mentions coherence and cohesion.
Right, and then there's lexical resource and grammatical range and accuracy.
Okay, those sound a bit intimidating. Can we break those down a bit?
Of course, coherence and cohesion is all about how well your writing flows.
So it's about making sure your ideas connect smoothly.
Exactly. You want your writing to be easy to follow and understand.
So it's not just about individual sentences, it's about how they all fit together.
You got it. Now, lexical resource refers to your vocabulary.
Okay, so using a variety of words and showing that you know how to use them correctly.
Exactly. And grammatical range and accuracy is all about using a variety of grammatical structures accurately.
So it's about showing off your grammar skills.
Well, not exactly showing off. It's more about demonstrating that you have a good command of the language.
Okay, so using complex sentences and different tenses correctly.
Right. And one tip from the guide that I love is to practice writing under timed conditions.
Oh, that's a good one. Get used to that pressure.
Exactly. It's like training for a marathon. You need to build up your stamina.
I like that analogy. So we've talked about the criteria, sentence structures, and now practice.
And you know what's really cool about this task? It's not just about IELTS.
What do you mean?
These skills, analyzing information, drawing conclusions, presenting your findings, clearly they're valuable in so many areas of life.
That's true. It's like you're learning how to communicate effectively in a data-driven world.
Exactly. So while you're prepping for IELTS, you're also developing skills that will benefit you in your studies, your career, even your personal life.
I love that perspective. So it's like a win-win situation. You're getting ready for the test and becoming a better communicator overall.
Now, are you ready to move on to some specific strategies for different types of visuals?
Absolutely. Let's dive into the world of line graphs. They're pretty common in Task 1, so it's important to know how to tackle them.
When you're looking at a line graph, the first thing you want to do is identify the overall trend.
Okay, so is it generally going up, down, or staying relatively stable?
Exactly. Once you've got that big picture, you can start looking at the more specific details.
So it's like zooming in on the finer points.
Right. And remember, it's not just about describing what you see. It's about interpreting the data, drawing conclusions.
Ah, so what do those trends suggest? Are there any possible explanations for the patterns you're observing?
And that's where your analytical skills come in. You're not just reporting the data, you're using it to tell a story.
I like that. Now, what about language? What kind of words and phrases can we use to make our descriptions more impactful?
Rachel's guide has some fantastic vocabulary for describing trends. Words like plummet, skyrocket, stabilize, fluctuate.
Ooh, those are good. They really paint a vivid picture.
And don't forget about adverbs. They add that extra layer of precision and nuance.
Right. So instead of just saying sales increased, you could say
Yeah.
sales increased dramatically or sales increased gradually.
Exactly. Now, while impactful language is great, accuracy is just as important.
So no exaggerating or misinterpreting the data.
Right. You want to use strong language, but you also want to stay true to the facts.
Got it. Now, there's one more thing that always trips me up. Paraphrasing.
Ah, yes,
I
paraphrasing.
know it's important, but I always struggle to make it sound natural.
It's a common challenge. Why is it so important, this task?
Well, I guess because it shows that you can express the same ideas in different ways.
You got it. It demonstrates your command of the language.
And avoids simply copying the words from the task or the visual.
Exactly. It's about showing that you understand the concepts and can express them using your own words and sentence structures.
Okay, so how do we get better at paraphrasing?
Practice, 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 and expand your vocabulary.
So it's like any other skill, the more you do it, the better you get at it.
Right. Think of it as a game.
A game.
Yeah. Challenge yourself to come up with different ways to express the same idea.
Okay, I like that. It makes it a bit more fun.
Exactly. And remember, Rachel's Guide offers a handy list of paraphrasing words to help you out.
I'm definitely going to check that out. So we've covered a lot of ground here. Task achievement, sentence structures, practice, impactful language, accuracy, and paraphrasing.
We've laid a solid foundation for tackling IELTS Academic Writing Task 1.
I'm feeling much more confident already. But even with all these strategies, I still get nervous about the test itself.
Test day jitters are completely normal. But remember, the more prepared you are, the less anxious you'll feel.
So practice is key. It's like anything else. The more you do it, the more comfortable you become.
Exactly. And if you do find yourself panicking during the test, take a deep breath, remind yourself of the strategies you've practiced, and break the task down into smaller steps.
Like creating a mental checklist. Okay, analyze the visual, plan my response, write clearly and concisely, proofread carefully. I like it.
And remember, it's okay to make mistakes. Everyone does. The key is to learn from them and keep practicing.
That's a great reminder. So we've covered line graphs and some general strategies. What other visual formats are we going to explore in this deep dive?
We'll be delving into bar charts, maps, and processes. Each one presents its own unique set of challenges. So we'll be unpacking those and offering specific strategies from Rachel's Guide.
This is fantastic. I'm already feeling more confident and prepared just from our discussion about line graphs. I can't wait to dive into the other visual formats and uncover even more valuable insights from Rachel's Guide.
I'm excited to explore them with you.
All right, so we tackled line graphs, but what about bar charts? Those are pretty common in Task 1 too.
They are, and while they share some similarities with line graphs in terms of showing data, there are a few key differences.
Yeah, like with bar charts, you're often comparing different categories rather than changes over time, right?
Exactly. So instead of focusing on trends, you'll be looking for those standout differences or similarities between the categories.
Got it. So like, are there any super high or super low values?
Right. Or any noticeable patterns or groupings. You want to highlight those key features.
And then explain those features in my report, of course.
Of course. And when you're describing those comparisons, comparative and superlative adjectives are your best friends.
Oh, good point. Words like higher, lower, the most significant, the least significant.
You got it. But I sometimes find it hard to make those comparisons sound natural, you know?
I know what you mean. Like, how do you avoid just repeating the same phrases over and over?
One trick is to play around with your sentence structure.
Oh, okay, I see.
So instead of always saying category A is higher than category B, you could mix it up and say, compared to category B, category A shows a significantly higher value.
Got it. So you're basically just adding a little more variety and context.
Exactly. And again, Rachel's Guide provides a ton of sentence structures and vocabulary to make those comparisons really stand out.
It's like having a cheat sheet for bar charts. But what about maps? Those always make me a little nervous. They just seem so different from other visuals.
I get it. Maps can be tricky because you often have to describe both changes over time and spatial relationships.
Yeah, that's what throws me off. So where do you even start with a map?
Well, first things first, identify those key features and changes.
Okay, so is there a new building? Has anything been expanded or shrunk?
Exactly. And have any roads or landmarks been moved? Once you've got those changes nailed down, you can start thinking about how to describe them.
It's like I'm a tour guide pointing out all the important stuff, right?
Perfect analogy. And just like a tour guide, you need to use precise language to describe those locations and changes.
Right. I need to be super clear so there's no confusion.
And Rachel's Guide emphasizes using specific directional language, like in the north, To the east, adjacent to.
Oh, that makes sense. Those words are super helpful for maps.
Absolutely. And don't forget about the time element.
Oh, right. A lot of times maps show changes that have happened over a certain period.
Exactly. So you need to make sure you're using the right tenses to indicate when those changes took place.
Like, was it in the past? Is it happening now?
Yeah.
Or is it something planned for the future?
Exactly. Getting those tenses right is crucial.
All right, maps check. What's next on our visual adventure?
Processes. They're a bit different because instead of static data, you're describing a series of events or steps.
So it's like explaining how something works or how something is made.
Exactly. And Rachel's guide breaks processes down into two main types: man-made and natural.
Oh, interesting. What's the difference?
Man-made processes are things like, say, manufacturing a product or constructing a building.
Okay, I get it. And natural processes.
Those would be things like the water cycle or the life cycle of a plant.
Okay, so how does that difference affect how I describe the process?
Well, for man-made processes, the guide recommends using the passive voice
Passive voice. Why is that?
because it puts the focus on the actions themselves, not who's doing them.
So instead of saying the workers heat the metal, I'd say the metal is heated.
Perfect. It keeps the description concise and objective.
That makes sense. What about natural processes?
For those, the active voice is usually better
Why the switch?
because with natural processes, you're talking about natural forces at work.
Ah, so I'd say the sun evaporates the water, not the water is evaporated by the sun.
Exactly. It gives those natural forces a sense of agency, if you will.
Okay, I like that. And are there any other tips for describing processes clearly?
Yes. No matter what type of process you're describing, sequencers are your best friends.
Sequencers. Remind me what those are again.
Those are words like first, then, next, finally. They help establish a clear order of events.
Oh, right. Those are super helpful. It's like those little arrows on a flowchart.
Exactly. And you can also use non-defining relative clauses to add more explanation to each step.
Oh, interesting. Like how?
You could say, the water is heated, which causes it to evaporate, or the seeds are dispersed by the wind, which allows them to reach new areas.
I see. So you're not just saying what happens, but also why it happens?
Exactly. It adds a layer of depth and clarity to your description.
Okay, processes. Got it. But with all these different visuals and strategies, it's easy to get overwhelmed.
I hear you. That's why Rachel stresses the importance of keeping things clear and simple.
Right. No need to try and impress the examiner with fancy words or grammar.
It's all about communicating clearly and effectively.
So just imagine I'm explaining the visual to a friend who's never seen it before.
That's a great way to think about it. It helps you step outside your own head and consider the reader's perspective.
All right, so we've covered a lot of ground here. Line graphs, bar charts, maps, and processes. Phew.
We've made excellent progress. And remember, practice is key.
Practice and practice, practice.
The more you analyze different visuals and write reports under pressure, the better you'll get.
And it's not just about memorizing rules, it's about developing a deeper understanding of language itself.
You got it. You're becoming a more confident and versatile communicator in the process.
So it's like win-win. You're preparing for IELTS and also leveling up your communication skills overall.
Exactly. Those skills are going to benefit you in all aspects of life, not just the exam.
I love that. So are we ready to move on to the final part of our deep dive?
We are. We'll be wrapping things up and offering some final tips and resources to help you feel even more confident and prepared.
Sounds great. Let's do it. All right, so we've got the strategies down, but where can listeners find good practice materials?
Well, the official IELTS website is a great place to start. They've got sample questions, band descriptors, even full practice tests you can pay for.
Oh, that's good to know. I feel like practice is super important, but so is feedback.
You're absolutely right. Getting your writing assessed by a qualified IELTS instructor can make a huge difference.
Yeah, like having someone point out those little mistakes you might miss on your own.
Exactly. They can help you pinpoint those areas where you might be losing points and offer specific suggestions for improvement.
It's like having a writing coach in your corner.
Exactly. Now, let's talk about something we touched on earlier, vocabulary.
Expanding that lexical range. It's like building a muscle, right? The more you use it, the stronger it gets.
I love that analogy. And one of the best ways to build those vocabulary muscles is to read, read, read.
Oh, yeah, reading is so important.
And don't limit yourself to just IELTS materials.
Right. Read anything and everything in English.
Exactly. News articles, novels, blogs, even academic journals.
So immerse yourself in the language.
Exactly. And don't just passively read, actively engage with those texts.
Oh, good point. Like highlighting new words, looking them up.
Right. Write them down, make flashcards, try using them in your own writing.
So basically, turn those new words into active vocabulary.
You got it. Another tip is to focus on building thematic vocabulary groups.
Thematic vocabulary groups.
Yeah. So let's say you're likely to encounter data about economic trends.
Okay.
It would be really helpful to spend time learning vocabulary related to finance, trade, economic indicators, stuff like that.
So you're tailoring your vocabulary to the specific challenges you might face on the test.
Exactly. Now, let's not forget about grammar. Rachel's guide gives a great foundation, but how can our listeners really level up their grammar skills?
I've always found that analyzing model answers is super helpful.
Model answers, great idea.
But not just reading them, like really dissecting them.
Ah, I see what you mean. Like looking closely at how they use different grammatical structures.
Exactly. Complex sentences, different tenses, all those fancy clauses.
It's like reverse engineering a masterpiece.
Yeah.
You're figuring out how all the pieces fit together.
Exactly. And then, of course, practice using those structures in your own writing.
Right. Don't be afraid to experiment. Try rewriting simple sentences using more complex structures.
Play around with the language.
Exactly. It's all about pushing yourself beyond your comfort zone and expanding your grammatical toolkit.
You know, as we've been talking about all these extra resources and techniques, it really hit me that this task is about so much more than just IELTS.
It is, isn't it?
It's about developing those essential communication skills that are valuable in every aspect of life.
You're becoming a more confident and articulate communicator.
Someone who can analyze information, draw conclusions, present those findings clearly and persuasively.
Exactly. And those skills, they're transferable to any field, any career.
It's like IELTS is giving you a toolkit for success, not just for the test, but for life.
I love that. And Rachel's guide is like the instruction manual for that toolkit.
It's giving you the power to unlock your full potential. Well, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive, folks.
It's been a fantastic journey.
It really has. I feel like we've covered so much ground. Do you have any final words of wisdom for our listeners as they embark on their IELTS adventures?
Remember, you've got this. The IELTS might seem daunting, but it's also an amazing opportunity for growth.
Embrace the challenge.
Learn from your mistakes, celebrate your progress, and most importantly, believe in yourself.
Such great advice. To our listeners, best of luck on your IELTS journey. Remember all the tips and strategies we've talked about today, and keep learning and growing.
And until next time, happy writing.